Committee on Parent and Community Engagement, Tuesday, February 9th meeting of the Board of Directors of the School Board Directors will please come to order. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Director Baez.
Present.
Director Miller.
Present.
Director O'Halloran.
Present.
Director Woodward.
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Present.
We have 5 present.
Thank you. At this time, we will have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our listening audience.
Buenas tardes. Para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de Junta 9806-0306-7472. Una vez más, el teléfono es 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de Junta 9806-0306-7472. Gracias.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please mute your microphone so that we don't have any feedback.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Due to contingencies of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are holding this meeting virtually. Board members are participating remotely and the Central Service Building is closed to the public. However, in order to allow as much public participation as possible, in addition to our normal practice of broadcasting our meetings on radio station WYMS 88.9 FM and live streaming them on the MPS website, we are broadcasting this meeting on the MPS YouTube screen, the link to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Individuals who wish to speak on tonight's items were required to register in advance. I ask those who are waiting to speak to remain on the platform until you are called upon to speak. Just as a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or comments are to be directed towards the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. All speakers are asked to state their name and spell their last name before proceeding with their comments. Each speaker will have 2 minutes and 15 seconds to speak. After a speaker time is up, they may continue to follow the meeting at one of the broadcast options mentioned previously. To ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind, including inappropriate language, will not be tolerated. The chair reserves the right to remove anyone engaging in such behavior from the platform. Those removed from the platform may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the platform. Written testimony may be submitted to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181 Milwaukee, spelled all the way out, Wisconsin, 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@Milwaukee, spelled all the way out, .k12.wi.us. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items in attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee, spelled all the way out, .k12.wi.us. Madam Secretary, what is the first item of business?
Item 1 is action on Resolution 2021-R-19 by Director Phillips regarding programming that focuses on girls and the creation of an annual survey. The recommendation is that the board adopt Resolution 2021-R-19 by Director Phillips as attached, and Director Taylor has advised the Office of Board Governance that she would like to be listed as a co-sponsor to this resolution.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We do have Director Phillips with us. Thank you for joining the meeting as well in administration. So I will go to Director Phillips first and then administration if no one else on the committee has anything.
Thank you, Chair Taylor, for allowing me to speak and also joining as a co-sponsor. I appreciate the administration being in support of considering how we utilize some of the things that we already do at MPS in terms of surveying our students and how we can get more student voice to hear from them underneath some of these threads that we've read about in different studies and literature. Particularly understanding that the pandemic has ravaged so much for so many. It was important for me to put something together that we can actually get going in the midst of everything, since it's already part of our normal processes, and hope that it could be the starting block of things to come. But I am very conscious of the time that it takes to bring something like this together, but I do believe that this will be more than just a catalog of programs, more than just getting information from students, but it can be a catalyst to improving outcomes, really making sure that our community understands things that we already do and how we're helping and come alongside of us as we search for solutions to better the well-being of girls and non-binary children. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Administration, anything on this item?
Good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. The administration is in agreement with the intent of the resolution with some minor adjustments relative to the aligning this work within our existing survey method. Once we have determined this alignment, we will collaborate as indicated in the resolution. In addition, we do not want to limit to one annual survey, but want to include a variety of survey-based methods, such as focus groups, in order to avoid survey fatigue and to encourage participants, as many participants as possible. We want to support our young ladies in their personal and academic development, and this resolution supports that. Thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item.
Thank you, administration. And as I'm hearing, there's a couple of things that has to align. Do we have a timeline or time frame for those items so that we can move along?
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, yes, we are working on that, and we will have that right away.
All right. Thank you. And I just want to thank Director Phillips for bringing this to our attention and allowing me to co-sponsor it as well too. Any other committee members have any questions or comments on the item before us?
There's not a motion on the floor. I would like to make such a motion.
Thank you. Director Baez.
I am saying that if there's not a motion on the floor, I would like to make such a motion.
Madam Chair.
I was coming up. All right.
I'm sorry, Director Baez. I wasn't meaning to cut you off. Director O'Halloran's hand was raised, and then Director Baez, and you have 11 individuals who would like to speak on this item on the platform.
On this item.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I didn't see Director O'Halloran. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor, and thank you, Director Phillips, for bringing this forward. I was just going to recommend move this for adoption, and then also I was wondering if we had anybody, any speakers registered on this.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to move for adoption. Madam Secretary, I'm now hearing that there's 11 people to speak. Can we please go to the speaker's platform?
The first speaker that we have registered to speak on this item is Jody Goldberg. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Jody Goldberg, Goldberg. Hello, Chair Taylor, Superintendent Posley, and members of the PACE Committee. I am the mother of 2 MPS graduates, and I'm here tonight to support Director Phillips' resolution focusing on the safety of young girls and non-binary children. We already know that our girls and non-binary children are in danger from American culture in general and Milwaukee culture specifically. The current events of the past 12 months will have affected our students in ways we don't see yet, especially our young women and non-binary persons who are at an increased risk for feelings of inferiority or anxiety. We don't know how a year of cameras off and no in-person contact will have affected our children with thoughts of body dysmorphia, for example. While many of our children feel tremendous support and love from their families, not all do. We don't know how many of our girls and non-binary children were isolated in their homes with no one to talk to about who they are or who they want to become. We don't know how many of our girls and non-binary children were quarantined in conditions that exacerbated the effects of longstanding stereotypes of who's supposed to take care of the little ones and do the housework while still being expected to keep the peace. As we think about reopening our schools, we have the opportunity to do better. If we can take any silver lining from this year, it's that we are able to adapt and we have the ability to reprioritize. We don't have to fall back into the patterns and behaviors that still result in disparities about who becomes a doctor and who becomes an electrician or a scientist. This resolution will help us become more conscious, and that's the only way we can become more equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Megan Wagner. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hi, my name is Megan Wagner, W-A-G-N-E-R.
Thank you.
I'm testifying on behalf of all the students I work with. This testimony is in support of Action 1 regarding programming that focuses on girls and the creation of an annual survey. I currently work as a student career advocate, and my position works to deconstruct barriers to entering the skilled trades and coordinate opportunities between schools, industries, and partners. I work in a variety of different schools across districts, including quite a few in MPS. Just yesterday, I had a contractor reach out from recommendation of the Carpenters Training Center to recruit students for a pre-apprenticeship opportunity. Through the programs I help coordinate and connect students with, I was able to refer 4 amazing candidates. They will be interviewed in the coming weeks with all their resumes on file for future job sites with the organization. These hours will apply directly towards their carpentry apprenticeship post-graduation. I was able to do this because of my relationships and knowledge of the students. One of these students is an African-American female student who dreams of becoming a carpenter. She loves creating things with her hands and feels a sense of accomplishment when she can see what she finished firsthand. We need to foster students' interests regardless of gender norms and help build up our young women to know that they can do anything. We need to play our part in ensuring that they feel safe and empowered. This resolution helps us understand the students we work with so that we can guide them to tell us what they need to succeed. The information from the survey can instruct us on how we can contribute and continue to advocate for the programs that point them toward successful careers and active citizenship. As Milwaukee Public Schools is committed to nurturing a diverse workforce, it is crucial to support the protection of girls in our schools and in a workplace setting. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Susie Falk. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Hello. It appears that the speaker's microphone.
Pardon me.
Oh, okay. Hi.
It happens all the time in this world we live in. Good evening. My name is Susie Falk, F-A-L-K.
Thank you.
I live at 650 East Bay Point Road in Milwaukee County, and my place of business is at 424 West Walnut Street in the city of Milwaukee. I am speaking in favor of Resolution 2021 R-019 regarding programming that focuses on girls and non-binary youth and the creation of an annual survey. I run a communications business that is focused on media. The power of social media is enormous. It can sway elections, help or hurt businesses, and more to the topic at hand, impact our youth. While there's a positive component to social media, it has helped our kids stay connected to teachers and friends during the pandemic. Sadly, the social media also contributes to a long list of mental health issues, including rising rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal behavior among our youth. You know about these. I'm a mom to a daughter an employer of women, a neighbor, and a friend to many girls and non-binary youth. I have heard firsthand accounts of how cyberbullying has stifled our girls and non-binary youth's participation in school, in after-school activities, and has negatively impacted their lives in general. It is impossible to fix that which you cannot measure. This resolution's annual survey that measures critical thinking as it relates to promoting healthy self-image, healthy relationships, and bullying is needed now more than ever. I strongly urge the MPS board to adopt this resolution that protects our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Bevan Christie. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Bevan Christie. My last name is spelled Christie.
Thank you.
Chair Taylor, Director Phillips. My name is Bevan Christie, and I'm speaking to express my support of the resolution. I've worked in education for more than 13 years in the areas of workforce development, community engagement, and career readiness. Over the years, I've sat on many committees focusing on Black and Latino male achievement, to include education and workforce development, the Education and Workforce Development Committee for the City of Milwaukee's Department of Black Male Achievement, or Black Male Achievement Council, that is actually chaired by the mayor, co-chaired by the mayor, and the city's Boys and Men of Color Week Planning Committee. Marquette also has a Leadership and Brotherhood Summit, and UWM has a Summit for Black male youth. I sit on only one planning committee that focuses on girls, and that's Alverno's Girls Summit. And that first summit was just held in 2019, and last year's was canceled for obvious reasons. I say all of this because as I sat on these committees, I've often wondered why there wasn't a counterpart for girls and non-binary children. We've seen the different acts of violence in our city committed against women, and it's been escalating more and more. Data shows there's a need in Milwaukee to focus on our young men, but it seems as though our young women have been left behind. Studies have demonstrated that the criminalization of Black girls first manifests in schools when girls are as young as 5. I believe it's time that we start to focus and be intentional with empowering our girls and young women to stop these cycles of violence in our city. Thank you.
30 seconds. Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Darren Madison Jr. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Darren Madison, Madison.
Thank you.
Jr. Hello, Chairman or Chairwoman and Director Phillips. Throughout my 10-year, I'm speaking to affirm the resolution. Throughout my 10-year as an organizer in the city of Milwaukee and my role as a national organizer with the National Youth Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, one thing that has been made very apparent to me is that our girls and non-binary youth need champions to fight for their justice because they face depression, emotional, physical, and psychological abuse, the threat of being sex trafficked, manipulation from their peers, and patriarchal conditioning. Without a strong, interconnected network of support affirming their values and experiences every day. I urge the full committee to support this resolution, which moves the school board in a direction to build a realistic continuum of care around our daughters and non-binary youth. Long-term, I hope this resolution begins to uproot policies and practices that strip our non-binary youth and female youth of their dignity, individualism, and identities. Furthermore, this resolution can bring about long-term impact through improved intergovernmental relationships, as well as we think about the work of the City of Milwaukee's Office of Violence Prevention, the Milwaukee County's Division of Youth and Family Services, work with the National Girls Initiative to stop the over-incarceration of our girls and non-binary youth. But this is up to the board. This begins with the board's adoption of this resolution. And I'll leave you with this. For these, our children, we will profit by or pay for what they become. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Danny Goldberg. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Danny Goldberg, Goldberg. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hello.
I just wanted the clock didn't move yet. My name is Danny Goldberg, Goldberg.
Thank you.
Chair Taylor, co-sponsor, Director Phillips. I live at 4902 West Kinnickinnick River Parkway. I'm the Executive Director of Building to Learn. And I'm grateful Directors Phillips and Taylor, who capably and audibly represent us where I live, for bringing forward 2021R019 regarding programming that focuses on girls. Achieving the aims identified in this resolution will work, not just talk, require work, not just talk, to create and activate equitable public systems in place of the collapsed systems of public safety, public health, and public education we are now struggling to replace. Achieving the aims of this resolution will require Milwaukee Public School leadership, both the board and the administration, to walk it like they talk it. We're still waiting for the MPS board and the administration to commit to action that unwinds systemic racism and show us a manageable plan that makes explicitly anti-racist, anti-sexist programming central to addressing the challenge of reopening our schools safely. In testimony at previous public hearings, Building to Learn advocated explicitly for policy that fights systemic racism and uproots policies, practices, and habits inside our schools that systematically diminish the dignity and safety of children and families of color. We see this resolution as an advance toward the research and the reported communications that will affirm how MPS leadership assigns the well-being and respect for the most vulnerable peoples in our city the same importance they assume for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Joseph Schmidt. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Yes, good evening. This is Joseph Schmidt, SCHMIDT.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Taylor and Director Phillips, for the opportunity to speak on Resolution 2021R-019. And I'd like to speak in favor of this resolution, especially for girls and non-binary youth. I am a father of 3 daughters myself, and I own a business that employs HVAC technicians in Wisconsin and Nebraska. And our company, one of our company's major commitments is to the safety and security in schools. And going forward is the safety and security in the workforce, especially for girls and women, and non-binary youth and people. We appreciate as industry that you are taking this step forward to help us make our current and our future workplaces safer and more equitable for all as we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Ann Kohler. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ann Kohler, Koller.
Thank you.
Greetings, board and director. My name is Ann Kohler, and I am an MPS alumni. I am a teacher of yoga, meditation, and art for girls and women, and I support this resolution and urge you to move it forward. I've seen the power that happens when girls are empowered, when they are given a space to be okay with who they are. And I believe this needs to be implemented into education more fully, more strongly, and I urge you to support this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the next speaker on the platform is Regina Flores. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Regina Flores, Flores.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of the resolution because it demonstrates a commitment towards an equitable and inclusive environment conducive to the physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being of students. As stated in the resolution, MPS has a legal, professional, and moral role in fulfilling its obligation to in loco parentis. This obligation must be held to the highest standard because of the potential risk it poses to students if it is not prioritized accordingly. More so, the fact this resolution is coming forward tonight reveals an opportunity exists for girls and non-binary students. Carrying out the work within the resolves should also include the engagement of caregivers to understand the extent of the fragmented care concerning student experiences. Community engagement work should include mission-aligned partners as a model of framework inclusive of students, parents, guardians, teachers, and industry. Our department continues to monitor the positive impact MAPs are providing to students during the pandemic, in addition to the threat racism poses to public health. The work must also be aligned with shaping a culture to identify and establish the most appropriate behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols to overcome generational trauma and support healing-informed care. Creating culture must be a collective effort to ensure any recommended programming is representative of its community. This work needs to go beyond surveying. While that may serve as a function, it should not be the only tool explored. A report should be provided to the board regarding current contracted services provided to students when assessing budgetary considerations. Because of my professional role and observations, opportunities may exist within the delivery of services that suggest inequities are present. This approach could provide the board the ability to assess the performance of contractors delivering services for interventions, diversity and inclusion training, mindfulness, and other therapeutic services, which is in alignment to Administrative Policy 3.14, Contractor Code of Conduct, and ultimately ensures the safety of students. In past testimonies I've shared, I'm a mother to 4 children, of which 3 are girls. I understand the importance and urgency of this resolution, and I ask you to strongly consider the suggestions I have listed. Thank you for your leadership and for providing the space for individuals like myself to share openly.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Holly McCoy. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Holly McCoy, last name McCoy.
Thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of the resolution. I am an alum and parent of 5 MPS students. 3 of my children are girls. My oldest graduated during the pandemic. She had an IEP and is on the spectrum and struggled up until high school to find her place among her peers. There were several instances where she was not supported in her academic space the way she was supported at home. This had an impact on her mental health. I believe that all students deserve access to that safe space. A resolution devoted to the betterment and coordination of efforts for girls and non-binary students is long overdue. Our girls and non-binary students should feel that support from every MPS employee, teacher, peer, contractor, and partner within the district. We all know that a report for the sake of having a piece of paper with some information on it does nothing. But if considered, analyzed, and data-driven, this is a resolution that promotes action and accountability from the district to show support for all of the girls and non-binary students struggling with the challenges of growth, development, and identity. These are complex and personal issues. Everyone's experience is different and valid. This is more than a survey. This is a great opportunity to work smarter with the resources we have and dedicate those resources thoughtfully. This resolution calls for words to become action and the good work of many to become a collective. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, I'm sorry, and that would be the last speaker we have on the platform on this item.
Thank you. There is a motion on the floor to approve this resolution. Are there any more comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, can you call the roll, please?
I do believe we have Director O'Halloran in the queue.
Okay, let me go back to full gallery. Okay, Vice Chair O'Halloran.
I actually saw Director Phillips's hand first, so if she wanted to make a comment, I would be happy to hold my comments or my questions.
How nice, thank you. Director Phillips and then Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I understand I'm a guest of the committee, so I just wanted to thank everybody that came out to speak. That was very powerful because I think it hit on so many different aspects of what we're trying to do. And I truly believe that we do have the leadership here on the board and with the administration in our community to make what many said words into action with this. So just wanted to make sure that I took the time. I think I'm quite moved by much of what was said. So thank you.
Absolutely a great showing. Thank you, Director Phillips. Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. And I know that Ms. Flores's comments were, provided as testimony, but I was wondering if we could take some of the recommendations, because I certainly value that the work of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, if we can incorporate any of those recommendations, even if they're not part of the verbiage of the resolution, but incorporate those recommendations as we move forward with this work. Is that a possibility? I don't know if that question goes to Dr. Mann or Super Administration.
Madam Chair.
Mann, is it more of a follow-up on it? Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, what we can do is share Ms. Flores's suggestions with the administration for inclusive research around any surveying or any data collection around programming for girls.
Thank you. Vice Chair O'Halloran, does that adequately answer your question?
It sure does. Thank you, Chair Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mann. President Miller.
Yep.
I just wanted to also ask that those suggestions be shared with the board, so that, because if you asked me to remember all of them at this right now, I couldn't remember all of them. So I would like to have those in front of me there. I thought they were very strong, and
yeah.
I think that my view is that this resolution is calling for something important, but I think it's going to build upon itself.
Yeah.
I think there's so many complex aspects to this that need to be addressed, but it's a good foundation to start with.
Thank you. Absolutely. And being a past employee of MPS, working with some of the students I had, we did a program called Be Beautiful. And I had parents that had students stay after that had never did an extra curriculum. So definitely happy to see something come forth that's focusing on our young ladies and not non-binary students within the district. Did I see administration hand go up or no? No. Okay. Director Baez.
Quickly, I wanted to comment on the fact that this resolution really is intersectional to what this board has been talking about in terms of issues of anti-racism, cultural inclusiveness, all the things that would hopefully make the district much better in terms of its approach to integrating into the curriculum and into the tasks of professional development of the people that work with children. All of those things that are a concern to us today, particularly. I mean, they have been a concern for us for a long time. But this board is a relatively very thoughtful board. And I think that what you have put together in this resolution needs to be viewed as connected to all the other work we do. I heard comments by some of the speakers about anti-racism and that the district should get it together. Well, probably they were not hearing the many meetings that we have had on anti-racism, and the fact that very recently we put forth motions to mandate professional development that deals in anti-racism and that makes sure that we address the issue of the disparity of treatment of children. And we were talking about all children, not just African Americans, as some people thought at the beginning. So this is very important that we view it as part of our work in terms of building the intersectionality of all of those issues that impact our young people in the district, and in this particular case, girls, because we created a Department of Black and Latino Males, and I was one of those people that argued at that time, what do you mean? This is about all kids, not just one particular group. I applaud that, and I support the idea that we have to focus on that, but this resolution brings it back to how we need to build systems that impact positively and the issues that affect kids, all kids in the district.
Thank you, Director Baez. Any other board members have any comments or questions on this item? Then, Madam Secretary, can you call the roll on the
On
motion?
Director O'Halloran's motion to approve Resolution 2021R-19 as amended and attached to this item. And this is the resolution regarding programming that focuses on girls and the creation of an annual survey, and it is co-sponsored by Chair Taylor. On the motion as read into the record, Vice President Baez.
Aye.
President Miller.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Woodward. Director Woodward, your mic.
You're muted.
Okay,
It's muted.
aye. And Chair Taylor.
Aye.
That is 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item. Thank you again, Director Phillips.
Item number 2 is a report with possible action regarding the 2020-21 school year planning for parents. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This is something that the board and administration wanted to make sure that the community continues to hear the updates and have transparency as we deal with this complex but yet important issue of reopening schools. Administration.
Yes. Chair Taylor and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. Chair Taylor, thank you for your leadership in requesting this item be added to the PACE agenda this evening to provide our families with an update on safe in-person learning. As you know, this has been a gradual process, and students with IEPs started yesterday, February 8th, at Green Tree Prep, as well as South Division and WCLL, Wisconsin Consortium of Lifelong Learning. Staff have been working around the clock to prepare for a safe return to in-person learning for our students and staff, including preparation of individualized resources and materials for students, as well as arranging for appropriate staff coverage. Resources and materials for students purchased. Each student has their own container of school supplies based on their needs. They include, but not limited to, pencils, pencil grips, markers, paints, scissors, and other fine motor items used in the classroom. The therapists who work with students have also added other items based on the goals the students is working on in person for fine and large motor activities. Each student has their own box of masks and placed in their, and they can place, it's placed in their own their backpack and coats in their own container that is separate from their classmates. For the students enrolled, transportation has been arranged, and we continue to discuss on transportation relative to the return to in-person learning for all MPS students. The Milwaukee Recreation Department continues to support families in many ways, including enrichment programs and community centers. Beginning the week of April 12th, spring sports will begin for all of our high school and middle school students, as well as elementary school students in that behalf. Between working with families during IEP meetings, preparing staff, walk-in buildings with facilities teams and union members, I thank everyone for working harder than ever before to ensure we are meeting the needs of our students and families, while also taking care of self and personal family needs. Our staff have been working hard and will continue to do so to serve the district and its families. We have prepared the sites by providing them with HEPA filtration units for all isolation rooms, and have all PPE equipment in place, including plexiglass, face shields, masks, gowns, gloves, and hand sanitizers. Appropriate ventilation and water bottle and filling stations have been verified for all spaces that will be used in the 3 sites. Systems are in place to make certain each school always has a specific number of masks in stock, and we continue to widely communicate the ordering process to schools so they're able to replenish supplies in a timely, effective manner. We have also developed a district dashboard to track our self-reported COVID-19 cases, so please take a look at the dashboard. Our work groups continue meeting to address guiding principles for safe and healthy school reopening. We have our Health and Safety Committee that is meeting, our Academics Committee is meeting, our School Operations Committee, as well as Communication, Professional Development, and the classroom and school-wide support. The work groups include teachers, school leaders, other staff, the MTEA representative, ASC representative, students, parents, and community members. We will continue our planning for possible school reopening in alignment with the board's action. On April 12th of 2021, students in pre-K through grade 2 began in-person learning. On April 19th, 2021, students in grades 3 through 8 will begin in-person learning. On April 26th of 2021, students in grade 9 through 12 began in-person learning. With the vaccine being a huge step in protecting us from COVID-19, we will continue to practice safe behaviors, including wearing face coverings, hand washing, disinfecting high-touch surfaces, and staying home when symptoms emerge. I just also want to add that I've had an opportunity to get out to the Webster campus on yesterday, and President Miller joined me today to go out to WCLL. We started off and then ended the day over at South Division High School. With that said, I have the entire team here with me tonight, and we are ready to answer any questions that you may have in regards of a safe school opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Let me just see how many people are waiting on the platform. I think I see some already on here. Dr. Mann, how many speakers do we have?
Madam Chair, we do have one individual that's registered on the platform to speak on this item.
Okay. Committee, if that's fine with you, I'll let the one speaker go, and then we'll come back to the committee for any questions or comments.
Okay. The speaker that we have on the platform to speak on this item is Leonard Henry. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Okay, sorry about that. It's Henry Leonard, Leonard.
Thank you.
That's okay. First of all, thank you, Chair Taylor, board members, Dr. Posley. After listening to you, Dr. Posley, I have actually more questions, so I may sort of redirect the way I was going to do this. But I will just say that I'm going to send to the Governance Council whatever research that I have, because I do have some definite concerns with regards to us saying that we're going to open safely. I have probably talked to about 200 parents and easily that many staff members. And with that, the main question is how are we actually going to open up MPS safely? How does the data compare with our population and our unique challenges? And telling our families and staff that it is safe to reopen schools without emphasizing the required criteria is inaccurate, and it causes mistrust and resistance. And that's sort of what I'm seeing on a daily basis. Some of the most pertinent questions are, as a district, are we able to reduce class sizes to the recommended 15 or less students? Doing that with our population would require almost 40% of our parents to stay virtual. Are we able to make sure every person wears masks, and the recommended amount of time is 92%? That comes from a Wood County study. You did also mention the retrofitted ventilation, so I'm not going to go into that. I guess the most important one beyond the spacing is, are we able to enforce timely contact tracing and the required 7 to 10 day quarantining if infections are confirmed? Every successful model that I looked at had these mitigations and several others in place. but we're a school district of 73,000 students. And very few studies reflected comparably to actually MPS. I even checked the New York City study. They are actually on a hybrid model. They're not even going to start middle school until February 27th, I believe. When you add our families together and all the others who have direct contact with each other, that comprises nearly half the population of the city of Milwaukee. 88% of our district.
Madam Chair, we have no additional speakers on the platform on this item.
All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Any committee members have any questions or comments on this item? I see hands going up. I saw President Miller.
Thank you, Director Taylor. I just wanted to follow up a little bit from what the superintendent said. I did get a chance to go with him to WCLL and South Division today, and I got a chance to meet students, met a wonderful young man, Ahmed, and had a chance to ask him a few questions. What I really wanted to see was the rollout being what we really want it to be, what the administration, what the board wants it to be, and I did see that. One of the things that CDC says, if you're going to open schools, you have to be able to maintain social distancing among students, and you have to have the plexiglass lined up. You have to have all the PPEs. People, and so I did see all of that for our special ed students as we begin this program. I also had a chance. Dr. Posey and I both asked, I believe, every adult we saw, have you received the vaccine, or have you been contacted, and has it been arranged? And without exception, everybody we saw at both schools was in the process of getting their vaccine or had already received the first vaccine. Now, that isn't ideal. I had hoped that all of our staff could have received both vaccines before entering, but DPI did not afford us that luxury. And so I did get a chance to talk to the volunteers that were there, and they were quite pleased with how the opening has gone. Without exception, people said it's the rollout, the opening so far is looking very good. And at South Division, we spoke to the person who's overseeing the IEPs, because there has to be an amendment to the IEP to be able to engage in this, and that's going very well. And so some parents are saying they want their child back. Others are saying, let me wait later. There's different receptions, but I just felt very, very confident with our staff and at both of the schools, and talking to them and talking to the administration. Everybody was forthright, honest. Nobody was trying to hide anything. We were able to see the classrooms. Everything was accessible. So it's just something that I want the board and the public to be aware of.
Madam Chair, I believe you have Vice President Baez and Director O'Halloran in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Director Baez and Vice Chair O'Halloran, in that order.
Yes, thank you. And on Director Miller's comments, I also wanted to suggest that we're talking here about a small group of people in special education with volunteer staff that is doing that. We still need to see in March how we're doing. Because when we're talking about returning to schools, we're talking about a lot of people. And a lot of people means a lot of buildings, and buildings, through the testimony that we heard before and the comments that I heard from people, in spite of all of our efforts, still have a ways to go, mostly because of the lack of funding. That funding is hopefully going to be made available to us through a push by the federal government if they get through with that. But we still have to determine in the reporting that we receive in March how we feel as a school district about going beyond what DPI had insisted on in terms of that small group of special education students in 3 buildings, I think it is. It's very different to talk about 3 buildings versus 150 something. So I caution the listener and others not to just jump and leave now and say Milwaukee Public Schools is ready to open for everybody next week, because I don't think we're there.
No. All right. Thank you, Director Baez, for that comment. Administration, do you have any feedback for the comments Dr. Baez just made?
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, one of the things, our goal tonight was to is to let this board and the community know and parents know what we have done to get ready for the rollout of the 8th. And just the idea, and I also shared in my notes that there's a number of different things that we have to do to get ready for coming back in March to talk about the opening in April. And I also talked about various groups that have to come together, and that's what we've been doing through the roadmap of readiness to make sure that groups are coming together, talking about this and working through this as a school community. And so those things have to play out, and we are going to continue to have those things play out. But this is just a rough picture of what we are doing now. There is work to be done. We have vaccinations to be done. We have a number of things to be done. We are talking about what we have done to open up 3 buildings for our students with IEPs.
Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I have just 2 questions. One, back in January, when we had the roadmap to readiness update, we talked about N95s, and I had somebody reach out to me about how she would be able to access those. So if somebody needs for like in-person psych testing, like or evaluations or discussions with families, how would they access the N95 masks? Is that at the school level, or is there somebody in central office that they would need to arrange that request with?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, Vice President O'Halloran, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe, Specialized Services. With the delivery of the N95 mask being recent, we are able to offer our evaluation team members that option to have the N95s. So we will add that to our selection order form. And as of, let's say, Friday, they can request an N95 mask.
But right now, they do have the KN95 mask as well, currently already in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see
follow up?
Okay.
Just one follow
Sorry,
up.
Vice Chair O'Halloran, follow
No,
up.
that's okay. And I want to thank administration. I know we kind of threw this at a last minute request, so I want to thank you for this update. I think that the public really appreciates hearing more rather than less about how we're moving forward. And then I did want to confirm, so we are moving towards having a spring sports. I had received many questions about this, but we are moving towards having a spring sports season. I don't know at this point whether that includes all sports or targeted sports, but that is something that is under consideration and in the works. Is that correct?
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, that is correct. That is something that we are working on, and it's the idea of the spring sports. Most spring sports start after April 19th, and it's sports that's outside, such as baseball, softball, golf, track and field, and I think there's some soccer that's a part of that as well. Any outside type, and if it's safe to do so. We are still going to be looking and working with the Milwaukee Health Department, as well as working with the administration and the board around making sure that it's safe. If it's not safe to do so, we will not be moving forward.
Thank you. President Miller, did I see your hand up?
Yes. Thank you, Director Taylor. Just in response to Director Baez, I just want to be clear. My first thought in visiting these schools today was the protection of our special ed students and the protection of our staff in doing this. And so I just wanted to see firsthand, what the process was. And I was quite happy. That doesn't mean, though, that it isn't a big implication for what we're going to decide in March. We had instructed as a board for the administration to move ahead as though to prepare for April opening, but that we would reevaluate that in March, because for myself, I cannot predict the future. If we're going to be return to school, whether it's sports or buildings in April, we need to be working on that right now. But it still is not it is still not determined. What we agreed to as a board to come back at some point in March to make that decision for April.
All right, thank you. Thank you, President Miller. I have two quick ones. One is, how many students do we have that are actually in person at those three locations? And I know if we're talking about reopening in April, which we're here for the update for now, will them students then be removed from those locations and put into a different building?
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, one of the things that we're doing now, first of all, the numbers right now are not solid exactly what numbers we have, because in the start of the school year, our numbers fluctuate, and we also have to do IEPs for each one of these students that are coming in. So it's work in progress. And so therefore, I do not have the numbers tonight to report how many students we have, but I will share with you that we are nowhere near capacity right now.
All right, thank you. And just a quick follow-up, because I don't want to talk from the chair. Will we be able to get those numbers before our next meeting update with the students that are in present now? And I'm saying for the students, like they're at WCLL and Green Tree Prep, seeing that WCLL is a K-3 through 12th grade, if so be it, the students go back in April, which I'm definitely not on board with or think it'll happen. Will those students that are at WCLL have to be moved because the students that go to WCLL will be returning to that school? That's the question.
So yes, they'll return to their
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, yes, we will get those numbers to the board tomorrow and make sure that you have those numbers. Also, students that are part of the program that are at the three different locations will return to their home school when school resumes, whenever that may be.
Thank you. Any other committee members have any questions or comments on this item? Okay, I don't see any hands. Madam, do you see any hands?
No.
All right. Thank you. And this was an informational item only. Madam Clerk, could you call the next item, please?
Item number 3 is a report with possible action regarding data and progress associated with the Office of Civil Rights report. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, the item before you on this evening's agenda is a monthly report regarding data and progress in supporting our students through the 10 action steps. Mr. Matthew Boswell will provide an overview of our progress relative to the action steps since January report, and after which we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Mr. Boswell.
Good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Matthew Boswell, Senior Director of the Department of Student Services. I will go through the monthly OCR report. I will start with action step 2, which is early identification of students at risk for behavioral difficulties and early intervention. So ongoing implementation of behavioral multi-tier system of support continues district-wide to identify students at risk for behavioral difficulties. I'm glad to report as of January 31st, 2021, there were 863 documented Tier 2 interventions, and 105 Tier 3 behavior interventions across the district. The outcome benchmark met. This is a 26% increase from 683 Tier 2 interventions the previous month, and a 25% increase from 84 Tier 3 interventions the previous month. The benchmark remains that by February 28, 2021, Tier 2 interventions will increase by 10%, supporting students identified for early intervention. Action step 3, outreach to students. During January, middle and high school students held virtual student discipline committees meeting with minutes and discuss submitted online feedback. By January 31st, the benchmark, 100% of traditional middle high schools will submit evidence validating that 2 student discipline committee meetings occurred. Benchmark met. By February 28, 2021, the benchmark will remain the same. School committees continued their regular meetings, providing a space for students to share their concerns and recommendations with classroom climate, behaviors, and discipline. In January, school teams also conducted meetings specifically discussing anti-racist education, COVID-19, and other student interest topics. Action step 4, outreach to district staff. All schools have a discipline work group that meets monthly to analyze disproportionality data, identify specific strategies, and identify specific professional development and support for staff members and students. Benchmark, by January 31st, 100% of MPS schools will submit evidence validating that they actually held a discipline work group meeting. Benchmark met, 100% of schools submitted report as requested. Report summary. Discipline champions receive a weekly email with best practices, articles for reflection, and to share throughout their school community. February benchmark remains the same. 100% schools are expected to meet the benchmark and make sure that their discipline work groups meet throughout the month. Outreach 5, community members. On Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, from 6 to 7 p.m., the district held its third of 4 community conversations discussing district climate and student voice. There were 20 MPS facilitators and 238 participants, including administrators, school staff, families, community members, in attendance. January focus was the importance of positive student-teacher relationship. A variety of best practices and activities was focused on the importance of making sure that students attended school and were able to voice their opinions. By January 31st, 2020, we held our scheduled January community conversations. Outcome benchmark met. February benchmark. By February 28, 2021, we will hold our final community conversation for the 2020-2021 school year, which is tomorrow. So we also just want to encourage everyone within listening ear to please register, log on to the platform for our final community conversation of the school year. Action step 7, staff professional development. The following is just a sample of professional development opportunities that was offered to staff during the month of January through our district learning management system. And some of those were titles of Brave Space for Race that took place between Parkview, Fratney, French Immersion, 142 enrolled participants, Bias in Discipline, Bryant, Hawthorne, Bethune, and Story, 130 enrollment of participant, disciplinary best practices, engaging student voice, all staff members, 25 enrolled and attended the training, and so on and so forth as you see down the list. Additionally, in terms of staff professional development, a 3-year plan is on the way to engage all MPS staff members in community and professional development discussion on anti-racism and bias. Our mission is to provide professional development and ongoing support and best practice for staff members to work with students in the Milwaukee community to address race, work towards being anti-racist through a series of professional development opportunities and the development of internal MPS facilitators to sustain the work. Year 1, we're looking to definitely begin February 2021, and it will go through June of 2021. The summary, the first year of individuals identified professional development will be all teachers, administrators, and support staff at traditional middle and high schools. These individuals will attend the virtual Courageous Conversation Exploration Training. Year 2 will take place from August 2021 to June 2022. The summary, the second year of individuals identified for professional development will be all professional paraprofessionals from traditional middle and high schools, all new educators hired and assigned to middle and high schools, 2 cohorts of central services leaders, and remaining cohorts for elementary administrators, teachers, and support staff, including counselors, school social workers, and psychologists. Year 3 will take place from August 2022 to June 2023. The third year of individual identified professional development will be all the remaining MPS staff members, including secretaries, nurses, school work aides, safety aides, central services staff members, etc. All identified individuals will attend the Courageous Conversation Exploration. Year 4, so on and beyond. So in reference to the 3-year plan, benchmark has been met, and we are looking to get started at the last week within February of this month. Next, action step 9, data evaluation. Below are all behavior events and administrative resolution documented across the district from January 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2020. There were 29 referrals in which 29 events were found as of January 31st, 2021. There have been 2,027 behavior events year to date as compared to 31,509 behavior events year to date during the 2019-2020 school year. So as we had reported before, the behavior events number still maintained to go down and look steady as more tier 2 and tier 3 behaviors are being addressed by our principals, are being addressed by our school staff. And that's something that we just want to make sure that we mention and underline, that they are definitely engaging as we are instructing them to do in such a difficult and trying time in terms of the way we're providing virtual education, so on and so forth. Year-to-date behavior events is broken down by ethnicity as instructed for your viewing. Action step 10, implementation plan. On January 5th, 2021, the district disciplinary disproportionality leadership team met and discussed school data and discipline work group mini minutes. Specifically, the team discussed supporting school teams, understanding data analysis, student and staff member supports needed, the role of bias and race, virtual education engagement, and upcoming community conversations. That concludes the monthly report. We are now available to answer any questions you may have.
Right, thank you. Before I open it up to committee, I thought there was a visual aid or a presentation that was going to go along with it so that people can follow. Let's make sure we have it for next month. Dr. Baez, please. Committee members.
Your mic is muted, Director Baez.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just a couple of concerns. In the chart that lists the trainings that are offered, I noticed that there were some schools that apparently did pretty well. There were some charts, there was some larger number of staff that took advantage of it, but in some they did not, and they were for all staff. So when you have like 25 people signing up for an activity of all the staff that we have, that's sort of like pretty low. And then, how are they being offered? Why is it that we have, and I know that we passed a motion to mandate it for everybody in the district, but we're taking our time to do all of that, obviously. But if we're offering it now, why is it that we're still getting such low numbers? It sort of like validates why we had to mandate it. But can you comment on that?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, the numbers that the mandated piece will start in February. That is what he reported out on will start. All of anything up until February is, where school communities have embraced and started doing various different things. And I will be the first to say school communities are at different stages. And so what our goal is to try to bring everyone along. And what they reported out on is when that program will start, to make sure that all of that is mandatory, that they reported after. Prior to February was not mandatory.
All right. Director Baez, follow up.
Yes, follow up then under action step number 9, the chart. At one point you mentioned regarding, let me read this, inappropriate use of electronic communication devices, but I noticed a number 10 in the group of intervention, which means police. Could you tell us when police is necessary? When is it necessary for us to call the police when people are doing still doing virtual? And as it regards technology, can you explain that to me?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, Director Byers, members of the committee, in reference to the police call, that was an appropriate situation to call the police without going into too much detail. On the floor, I will be more than happy to provide more details in reference to that incident.
That was one incident. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But in reference to the police call.
Okay, thank you.
It was one incident, yes.
Thank you for that. Before I go to any committee members, Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers on the platform?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one speaker on the platform registered to speak on this item.
Okay, we'll let the platform go on, the speaker on the platform go, then I'll come back to the committee for any other questions or comments on this item.
So noted. The speaker on the platform registered to speak on this item is Jane Audette. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Good evening, Chair Taylor, members of the committee, and Dr. Posley. My name is Jane Audette, A-U-D-E-T-T-E.
Thank you.
I'm testifying this evening to thank the administration, the committee, and the board for the decision to embark on the 3-year plan to train all MPS staff members in the Courageous Conversations protocol. Mr. Singleton's work has been pivotal in my own learning about race as a white woman and setting on an anti-racism journey for myself. This work has led me to build many abiding relationships with people who have become allies in the anti-racism work in our school district. Having co-led studies on courageous conversations with fellow social workers, fellow MTA members, administrators, and coworkers, this has taken me from learning content to actively practicing and intentionally investing in this work with a passion. Just attending a class for one day will not allow Courageous Conversations to become a game changer for MPS. This work must be done in relationship with coworkers and practiced if we are to obtain the will and the skill that Mr. Singleton teaches us about. The training being planned going forward must be supported with a plan for schools to actively engage together in using the protocol. School teams must practice the protocol regularly and use it in tandem with culturally responsive problem solving if we are to realize true change in how we view our Black and Brown families and children. Going forward, funding and organizational structure must support the full implementation of this work. Otherwise, we have only committed to train and hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that is the only speaker we have on the platform on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any other committee members have questions or comments on this item? Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I did have one question. We received several pieces of testimony about this. One was from one of our discipline champs, and she requested how they can access the survey results. It was in reference actually to December's report, but I think there's a continual request to access survey results so that they can act upon what the students recommended in whatever she said, organized in whatever way administration sees fit, just so that the discipline champs can make better informed decisions as they move forward with the work. Does administration have, I think this is in reference to possibly the summit that was held in December. Are we going to release survey results, at least to the discipline champ, to make that data available to them?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, yes, we have that request. We will follow up with that specific discipline champion in reference to the survey. The survey was conducted specifically with traditional middle and high school students who were in attendance at the December Student Summit. So it was not all students in the district and did not involve all discipline champions. So I believe some of them may have been out of connect with those results, but the survey was specific to student feedback after attending the Student Leadership Summit, and what they liked about it, what they wanted to see changed. We are planning a end of the year summit like we do every year in April, and we were kind of taking those results to make needed adjustments to that specific summit for those middle and high school students. So we'll make sure we follow up with them.
All right. Any follow-up, Vice Chair O'Halloran?
And I wanted to thank you for that. I know that the summit was meant to be for traditional middle and high schools, and so some of our K-8s may have wondered how they fit into that. But if there are survey results that are, relevant or can be actionable, even if they weren't in attendance, I would say there's value in sharing data if it's available. So I appreciate that, administration. I have no other questions at this time.
Thank you. President Miller.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Audette had raised, one of the speakers. She talked about the courageous conversation protocols. And one of the things that, what she had said was it's very important that those protocols be a part of the 3-year plan and never be set aside. One of the things I would like to ask the administration to, at some point, come to us to talk about those protocols and also what the relationship is to doing ongoing restorative practices, so that they're clearly connected side by side and part of the plan for moving forward. If I would ask that of the administration.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, we will be happy to come forward to present to the board that information, basically what the presentation is like, as well as all of the standards that we are going to be following. So we will make that happen.
Thank you. Any other follow-up, President Miller?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have any questions or comments on this item? Thank you. Director Peterson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, even though I'm not a committee member. I want to thank the administration. I also want to reemphasize what Ms. Audette said in terms of, and what President Miller said in terms of the need to connect very concrete things such as restorative practice. I think the other concrete thing we need to do in the long run is to connect those protocols to actually changing some of the curriculum. The dominant narrative in some curriculum in this country is still laced with white supremacy, and in terms of textbooks and other things. And I think one of the best ways for people to be anti-racist is to learn how to teach content that's anti-racist. And so I'll be continuing to promote that as we look at textbook adoptions and other forms of professional development. I think that's essential for a well-rounded approach to addressing the issue within all of our staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Administration, any feedback or comments on Director Peterson's comment?
Members of the board, thank you, Director Peterson, for your comments. That is something that we will take a very close look at as we work through the process, looking at the curriculum of what we have to offer right now, as well as, just like you said, the textbook adoptions that we are going forward with in the next 3 years, making sure that it coincides with the purchases that we are requesting to make, as well as making sure that it's an ongoing process around with our staff to make sure we inform instructional practices for all educators within the district.
Thank you. Director Peterson, any follow-up?
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands up on this item. Madam Clerk, what's the next item?
Yes, this is an informational item. And for the record, Madam Chair, we did receive three pieces of written communication on this item. The next item before you is item number 4, a report with possible action regarding bilingual education and the District Multicultural Multilingual Advisory Council, DMAC. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, at this time, we would like to share our quarterly report on our bilingual education in DMAC. One of our goals through this important work is to increase parental and community involvement, especially through participation in DMAC. I would like to welcome and thank Dr. Tatiana Joseph for joining us in our presentation and for her work with the DMAC committee. At this time, I will ask Mr. Eduardo Gavan and Ms. Lorena Gainey to begin the presentation. And once they are complete, we will be able to answer any questions that you may have. Eduardo.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, members of the committee. Again, Eduardo Galvan, Regional Superintendent of the Southwest Region. With me is Lorena Gainey, Manager of Bilingual Multicultural Education. And as Dr. Posley mentioned, virtually will be joining us is Dr. Tatiana Joseph. Again, we'll begin with the 5 priorities. Again, everything that we do around multicultural bilingual education, it does touch to these priorities, increasing academic achievement and accountability, improving our culture, develop our staff, ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency, and strengthen communication and collaboration. The first slide here, I did want to just make mention of some of the changes from our initial presentation back in October. Some of the data has changed. If we look here, the number of students that were reported in October was 13,026. At the time of preparation of this report, it is now 12,795. ELL population percentage was 35.3 in October. It is 37.9 at the time of this report. Special education, 23.1 in October, 23.4 at this time. And economically disadvantaged, 79.5 in October, 88% at this time. Again, some of that is because when we ran those initial reports in this virtual world, we were still waiting to get some responses from parents in terms of some of the paperwork, and then obviously some of that initial movement at Third Friday. And so these numbers are more representative of where we stand today. Next slide. Again, as always, the vision and mission of the Multicultural Department. I will just let you look at that for one moment. Next slide. Again, we'll be giving updates today based on fundamentals of the resolution, bilingual expansion and programming, parent engagement and marketing. Dr. Joseph will give an update on DMAC, seal of biliteracy, professional development to schools, and bilingual support. In terms of the expansion, Lorena.
Good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Lorena Gainey, Manager of the Bilingual Multicultural Education Department. Related to Hamilton, dates for professional development have been set for the 2021 school year, and 3 of the 6 sessions have already taken place. The Department of Bilingual Multicultural Education also continues to meet with the principal at Riverside to discuss programming needs depending on student enrollment. And CAGO continues to receive one-on-one support as well as other bilingual schools.
Another addition to CAGO is that we will be adding the additional sixth grade bilingual classroom for the 2021-2022 school year. This allows those students that are already there to remain there. And as that program develops, that's something that will help sustain enrollment and help those families of the students that are there. Thank you. In terms of Morgandale, again, we will be continuing to explore the expansion there due to the pandemic and the enrollment difficulties that presents. We will monitor that for future expansion, not this current year, but the year following. Again, has been explained, looking at data, this is the place where we do have staff there in place. We do have, prior to the pandemic, some data that shows that this is a place where expansion would make sense in terms of the need of the community, again, staff members present, and again, the bilingual population in that immediate area. Let's see right underneath there, Chad.
The next one.
Okay. In terms of Riley, again, expansion has continued there. We have a new teacher there as well. That's something that I would like to report. The teacher that was waiting to come from Mexico has come. The Department of Bilingual Multicultural Education met with Riley's administration and outlined recommendations for remote learning as well as professional development related to Riley's report card, the Montessori report card. They also presented to the parent engagement, the school engagement council, on January 21st to outline the program differences between what's offered at Riley and the other bilingual programs throughout the district so that those parents had a better understanding of what it takes to be in a program like Riley, which is both Montessori and dual language. At Lincoln Avenue, there was an addition of a first grade bilingual classroom for next year. Currently 43 students enrolled in the K-5, as we had noticed that this is a place too where the program had been growing. We had added a K-4 classroom and K-5, and we are now adding a first grade bilingual classroom there next year. In addition, Curtin, the population at Curtin has suggested that the data shows that we now need an ESL teacher there, so that will be added for the 2021-2022 school year as well. District Multicultural Multilingual Committee, Dr. Joseph will present in just a few moments and her update on that. As we look at parent engagement and marketing, we have worked with the Office of Communications and will continue to do so. The Office of Bilingual Multicultural Education did develop 2 videos, one of which was shared at the DMAC meeting. These videos are in Spanish and English, and they offer information for parents to get to know what our programs are in terms of bilingual multicultural education. And we will certainly make those available to you should you want to see them. An update on the Bilingual Task Force. The Bilingual Task Force has met 3 times since our last report. The next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night. Again, that will be virtual. At our last meeting, Director Baez and Director Peterson did ask that the task force begin work on preparing a report to go to committee in March, and that will be part of the topic of conversation at tomorrow's meeting. And Rocio will give an update Lorena will give an update regarding the seal of biliteracy.
Okay. The seal of biliteracy, there are 210 identified seal of biliteracy candidates. Some of the identified language for which students will be tested are Arabic, American Sign Language, Burmese, French, German, Hmong, Korean, Malay, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Candidates that have not yet proven proficiency in the languages other than English will take the AAPPL test on March 10th, 2021. Also, the VME World Language Team is part of the Wisconsin DPI Seal of Biliteracy cohort, which meets twice a month. The cohort is in the process of developing certification deadlines for the 2021 school year. All CLO biliteracy candidates must have work completed by spring 2021, and all CLO biliteracy certificates will be issued by the Department of Public Instruction, 2021.
At this time, Dr. Joseph will join us, and she'll give an update regarding the District Multicultural Multilingual Advisory Committee, DMAC. Dr. Joseph?
Hello, good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Thank you for having me. The work of DMAC is very exciting. We've had 3 meetings this year so far. They're all virtual. We've encountered some issues as it's trying to recruit parents and community members, but it takes a lot of coaching on how to use the Zoom link and be able to maneuver that space. So we are attempting to work with parent coordinators and schools to make sure that all parents have an opportunity to be part of DMAC. In our very short time together this year, we've had a couple of very interesting and good points and starting points of our work in the recruitment or in the expansion of bilingual and language programming in the district. What I'm going to show you today is those 4 points that we focused on in our last couple of meetings. The first one is the community language opportunities, understanding that we want to grow language opportunities in the district, but also understanding the constraints that comes with that, with teacher recruitment, recruiting students during a pandemic. Our DMAC parents took a little bit of a different approach and are thinking of outside of the box ways in that we can really focus on building capacity from, from school to school, district to district. And one way that they were very interested in having a conversation around was using the Milwaukee Rec Department to provide language opportunities all over the community and in different districts. And so in thinking that, Eduardo Galvan, along with Daryl Hall, put together a survey that was sent out via parent coordinators. And what this survey shows, or what it asked is, if families would be interested in kind of this after-school club or weekend club for a language, and which languages. And so far, we've had a pretty good outcome of responses from families, and there's huge interest. Our hope is that, we can begin this conversation in communities who may not have those language opportunities in their school, whether it's because of lack of world languages or immersion opportunities or anything in between. And so we're hoping that we can begin to provide opportunities and interest within districts, especially for me, I'm very interested in the Northwest side, the districts in the Northwest side, and being able to provide different language opportunities that will eventually become pipelines for growing languages within the schools. The second point, this is something that just came recently after the starting of the second semester, and it's this idea of the continuous support with virtual portals. And what I mean with that is that we had a very robust conversation around, yes, we have all these different worksheets with information, videos with information, links, et cetera, but parents are getting lost in all of it, right? Because I have to click on one page or call the parent coordinator for another. And so the parents were asking with some kind of a sheet or a link with everything on one form or one link, where For example, the parent portal could be linked there. Tutorials about how to use Google Classrooms on there too. And so this one-stop shop where parents can really log in and look for information, videos, and contact information for continuous support with virtual learning. And moving forward, our parents have mentioned that they like to keep some of this virtual living opportunities, for example, with parent-teacher conferences or, with attending different meetings like DMAC, where they don't have to run around town to be able to make it to a meeting on time. Another point is the recruitment of, it's a multilingual recruitment campaign. And what the parents have brought up is this interest in launching some kind of a campaign just to focus on the recruitment of languages for the schools that have language opportunities. So this is anything ranging from world languages all the way to immersion schools and everything in between. One of the themes that keeps coming up in our discussions in DMAC is that we don't sell our portfolio enough, that there are families and parts of towns that in the city that don't really understand or know the language portfolio that MPS offers. And so how do we use that to our advantage and our capacity to build and strengthen and really provide opportunities for more children throughout the district? And so points 2 and 3, it's something that have come up in recent meetings. So I'm starting to meet with some folks in central office and really develop alongside with families, what would these ideas look like? And the last point is around the world language expansion. There is a huge interest from families in providing and being able to receive world language opportunities for their children, especially around that K-8. We know that there is a robust offering at the high school level, but because of shifts and changes that K-8, it's sometimes neglected. And so we would like to have a discussion about that expansion of world language specifically. So far, this is what we've covered so far. There's a lot of action items, a lot of excitement with the parents. Currently, we have 15 schools that are represented, and some of those schools don't have any world language or any other language opportunity for the children enrolled there. So it's very interesting to now have these parents on board who were welcomed, but on board to really carry that discussion and help us understand what's out there and what their interests for their children are. Our next meeting is February 17th from 5 to 6 p.m. And if anybody would like to join us, please message me or Eduardo Galvan, and we can share that Zoom link with families. And that is all I have for you today.
We'll continue with our presentation as well, Lorena.
And bilingual professional development. The weekly support sessions for teachers are outlined in a monthly calendar. This calendar is shared every month with principals and SSTs. This session have served a total of 826 participants. On December 23rd, 164 participants attended a session on oracy and language of instruction in the virtual classroom. And additional support is scheduled as needed, ongoing every day, every week, and we do provide office hours as well. Monthly professional development specific to new bilingual teachers is also provided. High school teachers receive differentiated support related to their specific needs, better understanding and decision-making with the use of the content language allocation plan. The ESL, English as a Second Language team, also planned and delivered professional development to bilingual teachers who attended a session on building oracy in a virtual setting on December 23rd, 2020, and the same session was repeated for additional bilingual teachers on January 20th, 2021. At this moment, the ESL curriculum specialist is going to collaborate also with Greenfield Bilingual School by facilitating a book study using the book Universal Design for Learning for Language Learners. The goal is for the bilingual teachers to increase methods and tools for navigating both the language proficiency and cultural variance of their students to plan enriching lessons. And regarding to enrollment, the district currently has 68 students enrolled from the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the Congo. This will be a growing refugee group to Milwaukee. We can anticipate additional families will enroll in our schools. It is important that we know more about this growing community and have therefore reached out to the Congolese community members to learn about their experience, both in MPS and in their home country. We plan on sharing new information with the stakeholders to shape our approach to engaging our Congolese families at both the schools and the district level. And with the 2 refugee grants that we reported out last time to you, they have been renewed. And we have ordered Chromebooks for 60 recent arrivals to the United States. The students are across all the schools. In elementary, we have Bethune, Burbank, Grant, Humboldt, Kluge, Mackle, Parkside, Story, Zablaki, and Victory. And at the high school level is Hamilton, Milwaukee High School of the Arts, South Division, Bradley Tech, and Washington. These Chromebooks will be distributed and also ensure that parents and students receive an orientation from the school staff so that they are confident users of the technology. Another objective of the grant is to match summer teachers to new arrivals to promote language development. Therefore, we are planning summer enrichment opportunities to supplement extended learning opportunities and provide one-on-one or a small group support to develop English skills to English learners. Thank you. I'll do the presentation.
That does conclude our presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you for that. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no individuals on the platform to speak on this item and no written testimony. I do see President Miller's hand and Director O'Halloran, followed by Vice President Baez.
Yes, thank you. In that order, President Miller, Vice Chair O'Halloran, and Director Baez.
Thank you. I wanted to ask more about our Congolese folks that are coming to our district. That's very exciting. Some people hear burden, I hear excitement. That is amazing. If you could, I wasn't sure if everything you said after you talked about Congolese students coming to us, if what was being offered, what you said after that was about them or if it was about in general. Could you give me clarity on what's being offered to the Congolese students that are coming to us?
Administration.
Yes, Chair Taylor, members of the committee, President Miller, what we have done, we are talking to the community of the Congolese to learn more about them because this is a new population that is coming and we're getting more of them. One of the things that we have really find out that they, for example, not all of them speak French, which, was an assumption that all of them spoke French. That is not the truth. So, that's not what it is. And so we're learning different customs, religions, and what is the best way, food, and everything, and how to best communicate with them. And then we are talking to the families, finding out where they are, as also the BME has one a specific person that we have assigned for family engagement of ELs. So he's also will be communicating with the schools. He presented to all of the parent coordinators at the school level, the district, along with Mr. Hall, Daryl Hall, and the new families that the district is enrolling, and there are ELs, and to help them get used to, or not get used to, but to help them develop, a better plan at the school level for these ELs. Because not, we even though we do put them in program schools, if some of them do not go to a program school, we still need to provide some kind of services. But we are communicating with the Congolese community to help us out and develop and further plan to communicate with the school for better services for them.
Thank
President
you.
Miller, follow up.
That's very helpful. I want to ask one question, and maybe you can't answer it right now, but how many languages are represented in our district?
Administration.
Yeah, President Miller, members of the committee, Chair Taylor, we have over 83 languages at the district right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I just wanted to ask I wanted to thank Dr. Joseph for joining us tonight to give us this overview. We are so fortunate to have her leadership and her continued commitment to MPS. And so I wanted to thank you for joining us. Also, I was wondering if we could get the slide that Dr. Joseph presented this evening. I don't see it in the attachment that I received. Because I think it laid out very concisely a lot of issues that I've heard from parents in K-8 schools where they don't have world languages. I did have a Fernwood family reach out to me, like, how can we get this in our schools, how they can support that work. So I think that there is great appetite in making sure that when we're moving our children into, or our students into high school, that they're adequately prepared with this language background and ready to hit the ground running. And then so that was just one request. So if I could have this slide, I would appreciate it. And I'll probably jump in on that meeting. And then the other question, it was not a question, it was just more of an observation. For our listening audience, it would be helpful if, I know it feels cumbersome to read a slide to people, but if they don't have the presentation in front of them, they may be missing what the slide says. So I know it feels weird sometimes to read to somebody what the slide says, but are the people that are tuning in over the radio or otherwise, or even if they have some sort of visual impairment, hearing it read to them might be helpful. So that was just an observation. Thank you for this presentation. In general, I always appreciate hearing about these updates, and I think it's one of the things that I'm so proud of when I talk about MPS is about all of our language offerings. It's just something I'm very proud of. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair O'Halloran. Director Baez.
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank the administration for putting together this report and giving us more information on the development of this program. I think that I want to make a comment and then I want to ask two questions. One of the comments is that we need to distinguish that the 214 resolution that we put forth was essentially to strengthen the bilingual program that we offer as opposed, okay? And I think that needs to be strengthened too, the ESL services and the other support services that we provide other language groups. But we offer bilingual education in Spanish, and then we offer immersion in French, German, et cetera, But the core of the program that we offer bilingually is really for the Spanish-speaking population. And the 214 resolution was to make sure that we strengthen that. And as we strengthen that, then that we develop this expansion of the bilingual efforts in the district so that we could get more language groups to develop bilingual programs, and where we couldn't because of the numbers, that we provided the appropriate services like, world languages, ESL, et cetera. So I just think that it's important to sustain that distinction, because then one of my questions is that when in the report you talk about Hamilton, Riverside, Morgandale, Otago, Lincoln, these are schools that have had bilingual programs, or now because of changes in demographics don't have as many kids, like for example in the case of Riverside, right, that are Spanish speaking, but they do have other language groups. The bilingual program was supposed to expand in all those areas where you had substantial numbers of kids of one particular group. In the case of Hispanics, I still wonder why we continue to come to this board with reports that we're having conversations about, for example, Morgandale. If Morgandale has close to about 80% Hispanic, there should be no more conversation. There should just be a program of bilingual education. Okay. If Grant has over 70-something% Latino kids, there should be a bilingual program in that school. If Hamilton is close to 50%, why? Don't we already have that? So the idea of having conversations continues to be an enigma to me, because I think that the principals in those schools and the administrators and teachers and others in those schools should see the necessity of having a program for those populations. And I am hoping that the next time this committee comes to us is going to tell us, Morgandale is going to have 2 grades more or 3 grades more, not that we're having conversations about adding 1. Okay. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I think that we continue to hear that and we have to move beyond that. Then the other point is world languages. World languages, I'm so glad that Dr. Joseph brought that up. World languages was built into the 214 resolution. It was built into the resolution, into the budget amendment that we passed in 2018. It was built into the bilingual task force. The idea is that you strengthen the bilingual program, but in the expansion of bilingualism in the district, you expand by putting some world languages in some of these schools where you have kids that have the interest in learning languages, so that you put them. We know that we have them in many high schools because of the whole idea of the bilingual seal and the whole idea of advanced courses. And so you have world languages, but world languages, the world knows this. I don't know. I think we need to look at the research in other parts of the world. But in early childhood education, people are putting world languages teachers to open up the appetite for language. So why can't we think about an expansion that addresses the issue of increasing the number of world language teachers in those schools where we do not have a bilingual program? Okay, why is it that we do not start planning for that purpose, and then taking, for example, a lot of those people that come to us from other countries with another language? It would be more easy for them to acquire a world language certification and add-on than to becoming a bilingual teacher per se, where they have to be bilingual in Spanish and English, or in English and the other language. So world languages is a critical component of expanding and the bilingualism of the district. So I'm not just talking about expanding the bilingual program, I'm talking about expanding the bilingualism of the district. And it seems to me that we have missed the boat a little bit there, and that we should probably arrange with UWM to have some kind of program like that, where we can train people in world languages. So I just want to throw out those thoughts and that question that I have about, why do we keep on having conversations with schools that have so many kids that speak a language other than English, okay? Then I wanted to ask on the seal biliteracy. I heard all the language groups that were mentioned that are going to attain the seal biliteracy. Of all the kids that are in the process of attaining a seal biliteracy, how many of them happen to be Latino kids? I would like to hear if that's possible. If not, can I get that information later? Because it seems to me that kids that are already in bilingual programs and kids that in the bilingual programs, and the majority of them are in Spanish in Milwaukee, why is it that more of those kids don't get into the seal biliteracy? And maybe I'm wrong, maybe they are, but I did not hear that in the presentation.
Administration.
Chair Taylor, Director Baez, members of the committee. In regards to first the seal of biliteracy, at the last meeting, that information was provided, but we will provide that once again. The majority are Latinos that are in the process to get their seal of biliteracy, but we'll give you those exact numbers. In terms of the first question regarding Grant and Morgandale and why we haven't moved forward, again, in terms of Morgandale, with the pandemic, there was a plan. We were very much ready and looking into doing that and proceeding with that. With the pandemic, we just want to make sure that, one, we have the support there from the community to be able to move forward with that. In terms of Grant, again, when we look at the data there, although the population and surname is Latino, a lot of the population there in terms of Lao and access scores have been identified as Asian. Many of the families, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, excuse me, that's a misspeak, but choose not to have their students or their children in a bilingual program. They opt out of that. So we have to make sure that that is something that will be successful there. So those are the reasons. It's something that we will certainly continue to monitor. Again, Morgandale at this point seemed like the best choice in terms of what the community needs, what the school can support immediately. Also, when we talk about the changing population, areas like Curtin, where we're adding ESL. So again, we do want to make sure that we're providing the services to those communities that need it in the best manner possible. Again, when we speak also about world languages, this is something that we have been in discussion about. Dr. Joseph and I and Ms. Gainey and I, previous to that, we understand that there is a need. We, as part of growing the bilingual program and strengthening it, we also need to understand that it is something that we can offer all students. As you yourself, Director Baez, said, this is something that across the world, other countries value language. We don't seem to do that as much here, to our own detriment. But we want to make sure that as part of this, we can grow that kind of a grassroots desire to increase language and to value language across our community, so that people will understand that being bilingual will be something that's positive. It also serve to unite us in terms of culturally, when people understand that because you speak a different language, it doesn't make you less than or apart from, but can be in addition to our rich community. So we are looking for those opportunities, and we will take them when we can identify that we can do so appropriately and in the best interest of our communities.
Thank you. Follow up, Director Baez.
And just a quick follow up on what Dr. Joseph said regarding discussions in the DMAC about the failure of us as a district to sell our portfolio of languages and instruction to different language groups. That was again built into the resolution of 214. There has been constant discussion in the community as to why is it that we do not sell better in the city of Milwaukee. The idea that we're moving towards more bilingualism. Okay, so for example, those parents that are saying, "Well, we want to opt out of the program," we have reason to believe, and we have many people that have come to us, that the way that was approached years ago by many principals in schools was erroneous, was wrong, was intended not to have bilingual education. Okay. So we need to change that mentality, because we're a district that wants to take advantage of all of these groups that are bringing language into our district. This is significant, very important to the educational process. And when I say we shouldn't be having more discussions for some of these schools, I still have a problem with the fact that Grant is saying I can't have a program of bilingual education or the other one because of what parents said, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know about that. That's not the information I get. So I think that is the portfolio that we need to push, that we are a district that is very diverse in race and culture and language. And I just wanted to leave it there because that was my concern. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this item? Director Peterson.
Thank you. I'd just like to second what Dr. Joseph said about the portfolio and what Dr. Baez has talked about. I recall, I think when Dr. Baez was running for school board several years ago, him talking about this need for us to really use the diversity of our district as a way to recruit more and more students. We had the slogan, come to MPS, learn 2 languages. And I think that is something very simple. And not only should we say that, but then we should make sure that we have the expansion of world languages and the strengthening of the bilingual program so that we can do that. It's amazing. I have to say my 2 daughters went through the bilingual program and have benefited for the rest of their life in that. So come to MPS, learn 2 languages.
Chair Taylor
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, regarding the world language, we have some schools that have started and are new. For example, we are expanding a Green Tree at the high school level. We also have, a world language program at Stewart. And Alva, since they became IB also, they have a world language. We also have a number of Latino students that do not take Spanish. They rather take other languages, and they are taking those languages. American Sign Language becoming a very popular language for all of the high schools and for the elementary as well. So we continue to recruit teachers, ongoing, constantly, every day, and working with HR. So we are recruiting teachers for bilingual and for world languages as well.
Thank you for that. I also wanted to just thank Dr. Joseph for talking about an expansion on the Northwest side for languages. That is something that I truly will look forward to seeing. I'm sure as that community will as well too. Any other questions or comments on any of these items? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, is that the last item? Administration?
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, I also did want to comment that in terms of promotion and marketing, that is something that we had discussions with our communications department. We met with communications, Ms. Guinea and I did. We outlined some information that we want updated. That is something that we've also discussed at DMAC in terms of and asked for parent input once we get those products, similar to what Montessori did when they kind of remarketed and rebranded their program. In addition, just as a reminder that Ms. Guinea and her team did work with Student Services to put some videos on the online registration process so that parents were making better decisions. To Director Baez's point, sometimes parents are uninformed to make a decision or choose a school where there may not be a program or a language program offered. So we want to make sure that we're giving them those options so that they do make a more informed decision about the schools that they choose, so that they can get the services that they need. And we will continue to explore that, and we're continuing to meet with communications to better that. As I mentioned as well, bilingual multicultural education during a DMAC meeting did make a presentation, and that presentation has since then been put to video in both Spanish and English as a way to provide information regarding our different programs. This is an area that we will continue to work on because we do know that this is a great selling point for our district, and we want to make sure that we get that word out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I believe that was the last item.
Madam Chair, we do have one more item.
Oh, okay.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5, a report with possible action on parental engagement. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Can't miss this one. Administration.
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, this evening we're pleased to share our bi-monthly family and community engagement report. At this time, I will ask Mr. Hall, Ms. Storms to start the presentation. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Dr. Post.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Chair Taylor, members of the board. My name is Daryl Hall, Family and Community Engagement Specialist. Present with me today is Christy Stone, Director. We are with the Department of Strategic Partnerships and Customer Service. I am excited to have the opportunity to update the board on our activities around family and community engagement. Next slide. As the district focuses on the 5 priorities for success, family engagement is a critical component across all 5 priorities. In particular, there is alignment between the strengthened communication and collaboration priority. With empowering families as our focus, we recognize that successful engagement happens when all the components work together with schools, families, and the community towards improving students' academic outcome. This evening's report will present a successful partnership with strong communication and collaboration resulting in student and family success. With that said, the Family and Schools Together program, FAST, is an evidence-based program that strengthens the bond between families, their children, and their school. FAST promotes academic success, social, emotional well-being through strengthened family relationships. The partnership is unique. FAST received a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Children and Family to cover the cost of the program. Next slide. The FAST program is an 8-week program that uses targeted intervention to strengthen the family-child relationship. Families select the child they wish to improve their relationship with and attend the weekly session. MPS has partnered with the program since 2017. The FAST program made a shift to a virtual model this year. We will share more information about this a little later in the presentation. The FAST runs at 5 MPS schools currently: Howard Avenue, Brown Street, Engelberg Elementary, Hopkins Lower Community School, and Keith Avenue. The parent coordinators or designated school staff coordinate the FAST program at their school. Before the beginning of the school year, our department meets with the FAST team, the parent coordinators, and the school principals to discuss resources and support for the upcoming school year. Our department, Strategic Partnerships and Customer Service, staff also provide in-service training learning around family engagement to build a staff capacity to successfully support family. There is a commitment from the teachers at the designated schools to attend the FAST session. Due to the COVID pandemic, the program had to transition to a virtual platform. To continue to serve and support the families of FAST, the team created a plan allowing programming to work at home. Weekly support is provided to family. That support includes virtual contacts and phone calls. In addition, parent coordinators conduct a home visit to deliver materials, Chromebooks, and hotspots to ensure engagement continued. Families were given a package of material with each activity broken down as to how they can do the activities at home. Currently, there are 54 families in the FAST at Home virtual program. It is important to reiterate that many of the families who graduated from the program have also previously committed to attend in-person meeting before the pandemic. They came to the school once a week for at least 6 weeks for 2.5 hours of programming at the school. So the FAST at Home, families are logging on virtually or having phone conversation with parent coordinator or a team member at least once a week. To that end, I would like to share some data points. 103 families had graduated from the FAST program. 29 families graduated this fall from FAST at Home. 45 families are participating in the FAST Work program. That is the POST program, which I will talk a little bit more later. It is also interesting to note that some schools with lower family participation at the start, Hopkins, Lloyd, and Keith, are starting to increase their numbers and serve more families throughout the virtual cycle than the previous face-to-face. Again, there is a lot of work that goes into recruiting families to participate in the program. Home visit, text messaging, conversation via phones and emails were very common. The parent coordinators connected with the families before the program began and checking in during and throughout the program to ensure involvement. And while a family may not have graduated from the program for one reason or another, they have often engaged with staff after school or with other families in some capacity during the process, which was helpful to establish more robust relationship between families and schools. More noteworthy, although the program is at the targeted 5 schools, we ensure that equity is a part of the partnership. The FAST staff have provided professional learning at the Parent Coordinator Institutes in the past to share how schools can integrate these practices in their school. We have scheduled a FAST program for an upcoming Parent Coordinator Institute this coming March. FAST Works, as I mentioned earlier, is a post-FAST supplemental program that meets monthly and is led by graduates of the program. It provides a supportive environment where families can practice the positive skills they learned during the program. To be eligible to participate in FAST Work, families must either graduate from the program or have completed at least 6 weeks. During these sessions, families were able to continue the work they started and gain valuable insight from graduates on how to continue to strengthen the school and the family-child relationship. This program has made a positive impact on the 5 selected MPS schools, and we look forward to continuing to model some of the practices in this program throughout the district. Thank you, and this concludes our presentation. We will be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Any of the committee members have any questions or comments on this item? Director Baez.
A quick question to the administration. That is very nice. I appreciate that very much. Are you planning to be able to do some of this particularly in my district, in District 6, with the Spanish-speaking community in particular? Because I think they need that kind of a program.
Administration.
Go ahead, Chair Taylor, members of the committee, thank you for that question. Currently, the grant outlines only the 5 schools that are currently in the that I mentioned earlier.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, we are always looking to add additional schools when the funding are available. So this particular grant, and it identified the schools, so that the schools have been identified, but also looking to see how we can add, get other grants to bring in more schools. One of the other things that they're doing is to try to share that with parent coordinators from all over the district. So some of the same skills that are happening throughout can be shared with other parent coordinators that can be implemented in other schools around the district.
Thank you. Follow-up, Director Baez.
Yeah, just as a follow-up. Thank you. Thank you for that information. I didn't catch that it was a grant specific to that particular situation. But that in the future, when we write grants, we always try to connect schools in a particular district, like District 6, because of the issue of poverty and issues of, involvement and engagement in that area. So if you have parent coordinators participating and going back there, will you be able at some point to see the extent to which they are in fact having the same kind of impact that you are having in the schools that you identify, which I think is great.
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, thank you for your question. Vice President Baez, this grant was written in 2017, and it was based on the lowest parent participation rates, and they found areas in the city, and this is the areas, those communities are the top 5 or 6 that popped up. So, and that's how the grant was written. But like I said, that we're trying to duplicate best practices and share it with all the parent coordinators, and we will continue that. And then, if there is a grant that where we can include more schools, we were more than happy to do so. We don't want to leave out any school, but each grant has there's guidelines to follow. So, and that's just how they were selected.
Thank you. Any other committee members have any questions or comments on this item? All right, Madam Secretary, I don't see any, and this was an informational item, correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Now that is the last item, correct?
Madam Chair, that would be the last item on tonight's agenda.
Okay, and I was correct, there were no speakers for this item.
We have no speaker slips and no written testimony on this item.
Awesome. So thank you all for joining the February PACE meeting. Stay safe, stay warm. I usually say check on some of our seniors, but make sure we also check on some of our young people in this trying time. Thank you all and have a great night.
Good night. It's cold out there, so watch it.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.